General Hospital spoilers tease that Willow Corinthos is far more calculating than anyone ever suspected, and everything she's done has been in service of a single, ruthless goal: to destroy Drew Kane once and for all. What began as a picture-perfect life has mutated into a deadly game of cat and mouse, and Willow stands at its center, willing to sacrifice everything she loves to see her nemesis behind bars. From the moment Willow met Michael Corinthos, the world seemed to align in perfect harmony. Fresh from her own traumas and searching for a place to belong, she found in Michael not just a husband, but a partner whose wit and heart matched her own. Their lavish penthouse at Corinthos Industries, where every window offered a sweeping view of Port Charles's glittering skyline, became the stage for a blissful marriage. When their daughter Amelia arrived, followed shortly by little Wiley, the Corinthos clan solidified into a haven of laughter, late-night board games, and the occasional chaotic dinner that only the Corinthos family could host without flinching. Yet beneath the veneer of domestic bliss, fate's undercurrents began to stir. Drew Kane, Michael's charismatic uncle, with his rakish smile and haunted green eyes, slid back into their lives like a shadow at dusk. Although Michael had long ago severed ties with the uncle who once endangered him, Drew's reappearance reignited old loyalties and fresh tensions. Willow, ever attuned to the subtle shifts in those she loved, noticed immediately how Michael softened around Drew, how his posture relaxed, his laughter grew more unguarded, and how, when he spoke of his uncle's supposed redemption, his eyes shone with hope. It was, at first, a challenge to Willow's fierce loyalty. To marry a Corinthos meant embracing the entire bloodline. Sons, uncles, mobsters, doctors, flaws, and all. Still, as nights in the penthouse turned to mornings filled with hushed consultations with attorneys and late-night rendezvous at Aurora Media board meetings, Willow found herself drawn into Drew's orbit. The catalyst was subtle: a shared smile at a family dinner, a chance meeting in the hospital corridors, and finally, a moment alone in Michael's study when Drew's defenses crumbled and he revealed the bitterness he'd harbored since Michael and Curtis Ashford forced Aurora Media's stock takeover. Willow's heart, already fractured by Drew's admission of feeling betrayed her in return. What began as empathy turned to fascination, then to a single, impulsive night of forbidden passion. In the aftermath, his rugged form drifting off to sleep in her arms, the Corinthos monogram faded on the pillow. She recognized with horror what she had done. Yet the damage was irreversible. The next morning, as dawn filtered through the blinds, Willow watched Drew slip out, guilt and longing warring in her chest. She still loved Michael, of that she had no doubt, but her world had shifted on its axis. When the affair came to light, it exploded across Port Charles like dynamite. Michael's fury was a tempest. That same storm tore through their home, shattering trust and leaving jagged wounds that bled raw emotion. Amelia's small face, etched with confusion, and Wiley's innocent questions thrust Willow's misjudgment into sharp relief. In the echoing halls of Ferncliff, Michael confronted her, anguished tears mixing with recriminations. The Corinthos marriage lay in ruins at his feet, and Willow, draped in her own shame, felt the world close in. But surrender was never part of Willow's nature. Even as she packed her bags, preparing to leave the Corinthos penthouse behind forever, she recognized that Drew's betrayal, and the corporate vendetta he nursed, posed a far greater threat than her own guilt. When Michael and Curtis, in a bold power play, had cornered Aurora Media's shareholders and forced Drew from the company he co-founded, they unwittingly unleashed his vengeful wrath. Willow had intercepted fragments of a conversation, a coded exchange, in a secluded cafe between Drew and an unknown associate, where they spoke in hushed, urgent tones about eliminating Michael and Curtis once and for all. The notion chilled her to the bone. Michael had been volatile before, but with the right provocation, if he believed Drew had truly endangered his family, there was no telling what lengths he might go to. A murder in cold blood, once Michael's rage ignited, could fracture the Corinthos empire irreparably. Willow couldn't bear the thought. So, instead of fleeing, she made a choice far more perilous. She would stay, infiltrate Drew's world, and orchestrate his downfall from within. Relocating to Cassadine Island under the pretense of reconciliation, she let Drew believe the affair had blossomed into love. Willow mapped every facet of his days. The clandestine meetings at offshore safe houses, the cryptic phone calls after midnight, the furious scribbles in his private journals. Each discovery painted a darker picture. Drew not only blamed Michael for the loss of Aurora, but he was weaving alliances with an underground sect, a shadowy brotherhood whose ideology veered into violent extremism. Willow sensed its leader was more formidable than Drew himself, and that her husband's life hung in the balance of their conspiracies. Despite her resolve, Willow was not immune to doubt. Loneliness gnawed at her during the nights she spent alone in Drew's refurbished boathouse, its windows overlooking the moonlit sound. Memories of Michael's gentleness, his careful hand brushing her hair, his laughter echoing through the corridors, haunted her. Yet she steeled herself, reminding that every kiss shared with Drew, every whispered assurance of loyalty, served the greater plan, to sift out truth and trap him in his own web. And then came the bombshell, the explosion at Sonny Corinthos' rooftop loft. Willow had arrived at Sonny's to warn him of Drew's next move, only to see the penthouse engulfed in flames. Michael narrowly escaped with third-degree burns, his body scarred and his spirit shaken. The Corinthos family rallied, and as Willow sat vigil at Michael's bedside in Metro Court, she realized the stakes had never been higher. Sonny's near death only solidified her determination. Through clandestine channels, Sonny whispered to her fragments of evidence, security tapes implicating Drew in the LA attack that nearly claimed his life, financial ledgers tracing illicit payments to unknown operatives, encrypted communications hinting at plans far grander than simple corporate revenge. With Sonny's resources and Willow's inside access, the two formed a clandestine alliance. Yet every favor Sonny granted came at a price, whispers of his own code, his readiness to break the law he once swore to uphold. Willow balanced on a razor's edge. Was she dragging Michael deeper into vengeance, or saving him from a killer lurking behind a familiar face? As dawn broke over Port Charles Harbor, Willow knew the final act was approaching. She had amassed enough evidence to bring Drew to justice, or watch him slip away once more into the shadows, his secrets sealed by power and fear. In the hush before confrontation, she felt the weight of her choices, the betrayal that shattered her marriage, the deception that kept Drew alive, and the alliance with Sonny that blurred moral lines. Yet her purpose remained unshaken. Willow's plan hinged on a single gambit: expose Drew's ties to the secret sect and link him irrefutably to the attempts on Michael and Sonny's lives. But first, she had to draw him out. In the echoing halls of the Courtemain mansion, she arranged a reconciliation dinner, inviting the entire Corinthos clan under the guise of healing fractured family bonds. As guests filtered in, Carly with her sardonic smile, Brooke Lynn in designer heels, Jason with his silent glare, Willow's pulse hammered. Drew arrived late, his jacket dusted with island ash, flanked by two towering enforcers whose presence whispered of darker loyalties. The meal began with forced pleasantries, Anna Drake toasting to family, Spinelli cracking wise about stock prices, and Michael, still bearing bandages, focusing on Willow with a tenderness that tore at her resolve. Drew slid into his seat, his gaze flicking from Michael to Willow, eyes smoldering with guilt or desire, she still couldn't tell which. As plates of roasted quail and truffle-infused risotto were served, she maneuvered the conversation toward business, an old haunt that always loosened Drew's tongue. Aurora Media's shares have stabilized, Carly said, swirling wine in her glass. But the market's fickle. Never know when another hostile takeover might be on the horizon. Drew's jaw clenched. People forget I helped build that company. I know it's every creak and groan. His words carried an undercurrent, pride wounded to fury. Willow leaned forward. You helped build it, Drew. And you'll help fix it. Shareholders want their champion back. He smiled, a snake's curl of lips. My champion days are over. Now I'm in the business of something bigger. He nodded discreetly to one of his enforcers, who rose and whispered something into Drew's ear. Drew's eyes widened, and he excused himself. The room stilled. Michael looked to Willow, puzzled. In that moment, she saw her husband's lingering affection mingled with betrayal's ache. She offered him a reassuring nod, even as inside, panic flared. She baited him, but would he take the trap? Drew returned, flanked now by only one enforcer, a small leather-bound notebook in hand. He slid it across the table to Willow. For you, he said softly. Remembrance of what we might have had. Willow opened it to find sketches, meeting notes, even budget allocations tied to the sect's mysterious leader, whom she recognized as a long-shadowed figure in Drew's nightmares. Her heart lurched. This was the smoking gun. She stood. Thank you for this gift, Drew. It means more than you know. Her voice faltered as she let it fall silent. Michael rose to study her, confusion turning to alarm. At that instant, Sonny appeared at the threshold, flanked by 2 guards from the office of Inspector General. The sect's whispers of impossible influence swirled around them, sonar images of clandestine properties, helicopters landing in desert canyons. Sonny's guard placed a firm hand on Drew's shoulder. Drew Kane, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and membership in a designated extremist organization. Gasps echoed through the hall. Drew's face hardened. He lunged for the notebook in Willow's hands, but the door burst open, and Dante Falconeri and Claudia Zaccaro stormed in, badges gleaming. The lights flashed red. For a heartbeat, Drew and Willow locked eyes. In them, she saw betrayal, love, and fury tangled beyond separation. Then he was cuffed, his guards disarmed and hauled away. But the drama wasn't over. As Dante read Drew his rights, the sect's leader emerged from the crowd, Jen Sidwell, Natalia Rogers-Ramirez, ex-wife, her smile icy. She'd come to Paris for revenge on deception, but found a living weapon in Drew. Now she stood in the Coeur-d'Alene dining room, flanked by her own acolytes, scanning Willow as a rival. A silent standoff ignited, and Helena Cassadine's portrait seemed to loom overhead, approving the chaos. Willow met Jen's gaze without flinching. It's over, she said, voice steady. I've torn down everything you built. Jen smiled thinly. This is only the beginning. She mouthed a single word, enchantment. The enraged murmurs of the family rose to a roar as security hustled Jen's and her followers out. In the aftermath, Michael knelt beside Willow, taking her hands in his. How did you? Why risk everything? His voice broke between relief and reproach. She searched his eyes, saw the love still flickering there, and spoke the truth he desperately needed to hear. Because I couldn't bear to lose you, to lose us, to a vengeance that would have consumed you both. I couldn't stand idly by while he plotted your deaths. Tears shone on Michael's cheeks. He pulled her into an embrace that trembled with emotion, rage, relief, sorrow, and love all entwined. Their children, guided in by Carly and Brooklyn, joined the embrace. For a moment, the Corinthos family stood united, battered but unbroken. Yet beyond the mansion walls, the gears of revenge had been set in motion on a far grander scale. Willow knew that Jen's enchantment line, fueled by stolen corporate secrets, would soon undercut Aurora Media's markets and destabilize Port Charles's economy. And while Drew's arrest marked a victory, the sect's financial tendrils reached dizzying heights. In the weeks that followed, Willow worked alongside Sonny, Dante, and a hesitant Michael, poring over financial forensics and encrypted server logs. Each breakthrough revealed another layer of the conspiracy: offshore accounts in Cyprus, shell corporations in New Mexico, and an underworld network capable of triggering riots if their demands weren't met. Willow's sacrifice, her shattered marriage, her deception of the man she once loved, had bought them time. But time, she realized, was the enemy. The Corinthos penthouse, once the cradle of her happiness, became command central. Late nights blurred into early mornings as Willow compiled witness statements, former sect members ready to testify, coerced by her careful promises of protection. Curtis Ashford rejoined the effort when his Aurora media contacts uncovered the trail of stolen intellectual property. Even Tracy Quartermain, reluctant at first, lent her media clout to ensure any leaks were contradicted by their own press releases, starving the sect of public support. Amid the scramble, Willow felt the old guilt creeping back, but steeled herself with the knowledge that every secret uncovered, every shell corporation dissolved, would protect her family. And when the final courtroom showdown came, Jens and her lieutenants facing racketeering, extortion, attempted murder, and terrorism charges. Willow stood by Michael's side, her former lover Drew conspicuously absent, having struck a deal to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. As the gavel fell and the verdict was read guilty on all counts, Port Charles exhaled. The Corinthos family emerged scarred, but triumphant. In the aftermath, Michael and Willow faced a new challenge: rebuilding trust. Their reconciliation would demand more than shared tears. It would require time, honesty, and the patient mending of a love tested by fire. But as they walked hand in hand through General Hospital's quiet corridors, where Michael's recovery continued and Willow volunteered with trauma survivors, they carried with them a deeper bond forged in betrayal and redemption. In the world of Port Charles, peace is always temporary. Yet for now, the Corinthos family stands united, their enemies defeated, and the secret sex specter banished, if only for a moment. And Willow Corinthos, once the architect of deceit and revenge, has emerged as both conqueror of evil and penitent wife, determined to rebuild the life she nearly destroyed.